this is Mika Coleman with Tax Deed and Overage Education. My company is called Leverage, and today I want to talk about 3 common pitfalls that happen with overages, excess proceeds. There's so many different names. I like to keep it simple and call it overages, but a lot of counties say excess proceeds. It's whatever, tickle your fancy, but just really depends on the county too. You have to know the right verbiage. But anyway, I want to talk about the 3 most common pitfalls because as I get emails from my students, and sometimes if I have time, most of the time, if my assistant can't answer the question, I'll answer the question. And I'm starting to find some of the pitfalls that people are running into. And so I really wanted to do a video for those that are not students, those that are students, just a reminder, because I know people continuously watch my channel. But I want to talk about the 3 most common pitfalls and how to avoid them. And if you stay till the end, I promise you number 3 is going to shock you, literally. So the first one is, believe it or not, one of the common pitfalls that most people make, and especially if you're new, is not having all the proper documentation. Believe it or not, people miss documents. I'm not gonna even lie. I'll be completely honest. When I first started out and I was doing my first claim, I missed the most simple mistake. And so in a previous one of my videos, I also do it in my course, is I talk about having a checklist. And there is no cookie cutter checklist. I would say the checklist that I provide are more so like the forms that are needed that you can't just send to the claimant or something like that. It's like you got to have a notary, like the most important forms that need to be sent to the county or what the county is asking for. I have a list of those, like a checklist of those. But what you really want is a checklist for whoever is processing the claim. And what I mean by that is you want to have all the specific things that they need. I cover that in my course about all the specific questions you want to ask when you're contacting a county on what they need, because sometimes it gets a little complicated, especially with the claim forms. Sometimes they want the claimant's information, sometimes they want your information, so you need to get really clear on that. But the first common mistake that I find is that people miss documentation. I myself, when I first got started, I missed the most simplest thing, which was the ID. I freaking missed the ID. And I tell people all the time, experience is your best teacher. Now, do you think I ever forgot an ID after that? Absolutely not. So that's one of the most common. And how you avoid that is by calling the contacting the county and asking them. And not only do you want to ask them whose ID, you want to ask, what type of ID is okay, because I've had people that had, I don't know if they were green cards, but they didn't have a valid United States ID. So it's really important to ask what type of ID and whose ID, because remember, if you're a third party, sometimes they want the claimant's ID and your ID. Sometimes they just want your ID and not the claimant's ID. So you want to get clear on that. So that's number 1. That's one of the most common is the paperwork. I'm just using the ID as an example because that was one of the mistakes that I made when I first started. I forgot to send the ID, and hello, by the way, some of the counties will not call you and tell you. They'll just push your paperwork to the side. So that's where I come in too, like with the mastermind. I'm giving a checklist, I'm dotting all the I's, I'm crossing all the T's, I'm submitting the paperwork, and guess what I'm doing? I'm following up, because guess what? I want you to win and I want me to win. So I want both of us to win. When we are doing these claims, I want both of us to win. I want you to get some money and I want me to get some money. So guess what I'm doing? I'm following the money, okay? I'm calling the county and I'm making sure that everything has been sent. And another nugget too, I'm getting a little bit off the subject, but I always use FedEx because FedEx tells me when it was delivered and when it was signed for. So when they say they don't have it, I'd be like, well, FedEx said they dropped it off at this time and this person signed for it. So FYI on that, that's a little nugget. But back to the most common mistakes. 1 is making sure all the proper paperwork is filled out. Number 2, making sure that all the liens have been satisfied. That is a common mistake, and it's easily I haven't seen anybody talk about it, but I don't really scour everybody's page. But the second most common mistake that a lot of people make is not knowing the actual excess proceed amount. You either need to know if it's going to be the net or is it going to be the gross, and you need to make sure that all liens are satisfied. To give you a little nugget, Florida, after 120 days, if the lien holders haven't filed, then all the money that's left over goes to the claimant. But not every state is like that. So you want to contact the county again and ask them, if you have a list, is this list the net or the gross? That's a simple common mistake I think a lot of people miss. And also too, people always want to say, because I tell people, and I'm telling you guys this, I tell people in my mastermind, I tell my students, I'm gonna tell y'all that I never tell the claimants the amount, because you never know how much you're going to actually receive. And if you can't get a hold of the county, or if the county doesn't tell you, you don't know if it's the net or the gross if the county doesn't tell you, right? So why would you tell somebody and overpromise someone something that may not even be true? So I never tell my claimants the total overage amount. I just don't, because I've been in a lot of situations where when I file, that's not the check I get. So that is one of the most common mistakes and pitfalls that I see time and time again, or I hear, or people ask me about, and I have experienced, even though I always call, but I've experienced other things like, oh, well, we have to take this fee, or we have to take this fee, and it's not even the liens. But a lot of those lists, sometimes if they're fresh and new lists, sometimes the liens haven't been redacted, meaning that if you get a list, like let's just say on September 3rd, and that list just was fresh on September 3rd and it's in Florida, that might be the gross overage amount. That probably is not the net, because there might be other lien holders that need to deduct from that total amount. So that's the second. But the very, very third, but not least, that doesn't make sense, but anyway, the third, which I said was going to shock you, is, and I talk about this all the time, you guys, but I'm going to explain to you how to avoid it. But the most common mistake, believe it or not, that people make, more so newbies, is the redemption period, knowing that they go past the time. And let me explain. A lot of people will say, oh, well, I know California is a whole year, or I know Texas is 2 years. So let me just tell you how this becomes an oversight and a common simple mistake, is that basically a lot of times when a tax deed sale is done and they transfer over to the deed, you have to clarify when the actual redemption period starts. So let me make this make sense for you. So like, let's just say the sale was on August 3rd, but they don't record the deeds until August 10th. Now, some counties may start the redemption date on August 3rd, and some of them might start it on August 10th. Or most of the time it might be a month that they do the deeds. Let's just say September. I don't know. But what I want you to get from this is you need to know when is the cutoff for the redemption, because some people will automatically think it's the auction date, whereas some counties may go by the auction date and some counties may go by the recorded of the new deed date, and that is the redemption period. So I just wanted to make sure that you're clear on that a lot of people miss the deadline off of that one simple step. So you want to call the county and get really clear on that, so that you know that you don't miss the deadline. Because a lot of people do this work and I'm like, did you see the date on this? It may not allow you to do that. Now I know Florida, after a year, it does go to the state, and sometimes it could go under the radar, because that has happened to one of my students, and I was like, I said, well, you did all the work, let's try and see. So we did it and we were able to uncover it, but that's not always the case for everyone else. So I just want to let you know that the three most common pitfalls in overages is one, the paperwork. Two is knowing if it's the net or the gross of the excess proceeds. Basically, you want to verify if all the existing liens have been paid. And then number three is missing the deadline. You don't want to miss the deadline, guys. And I want you to make sure that before you even start a list, make sure you know what the redemption period is. I mean, I do have a list, and I give a list in my course of some of the redemption periods, but that doesn't necessarily give you enough detail to if it's the recording date or the date of the auction. So you want to get clarity on those two dates so that you don't miss the deadline. I hope this video helps, and happy investing. And please, guys, before you leave, if you like this video or there's other videos that you want me to talk about, please put them in the comments. I know I have a video due for somebody that asked me to do something. So if you have any questions or you want me to talk about a topic, please put it in the comments and I will be sure to do a video on it. Happy investing, guys.